Welcome to Murder with the Missus. I'm Darren.
And I'm Amy. And today we're talking about Nancy Brophy.
Don't forget to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, and Facebook. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you get the new episodes whenever they drop. And tell your friends as always.
Can we talk about Nancy? Goodness, this woman. This was a recommendation by you.
Oh, yes. 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 This is the one that is this the romance?
The novel lady. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So I was actually out working and I was listening to the radio, and one of my favorite radio stations. Anyway, can't promote them. Wished I could, but I don't get paid for that. So.
Oh, God.
But anyway, I listen to them every day, and they actually was talking about this little story or whatever. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. As soon as I got the name and the town and all that, the city, state and all that stuff, I called up Amy. I was like, hey, look this one up.
Yep.
I said, we've got to know what's going on here. And as soon as she looked the name up, she's like, oh, she's a romance novel author. But I was like, what?
Yes.
And so apparently she's like a well-known.
Nope. No, she was very bad.
Oh, she sucked.
She sucked.
Oh, well, there you go then.
But
anyway,
bad.
All right. So I thought she was like really well known or whatever. But anyway, so this is a kind of a recent. I mean, it's a few years old. It's not like super old,
right?
But
it's
anyway,
still in the news. People still talk about it.
I think the newest thing that happened was, what'd you say? Was it like 2023 or something like that?
Please hold while I investigate. 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I thought it was newer than that.
Oh, you're right. Okay. So she was, sorry. It was a 2022-2023 conviction.
Yes.
Sometime around in that. So yes,
yeah, so
it's
that was
pretty
whenever
recent.
she was actually convicted.
Right.
And everything.
Spoiler.
Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, go ahead. Let's do it. Because I was actually really excited about this one because I was just like, I don't know, flabbergasted by what happened and what she did and everything. So I was like, oh, Amy, you got to look this one up.
So now I get to tell him the details.
All right.
Yes.
Do it.
All right. Nancy was from Texas, where she had been married to a cop. I thought that was pretty interesting. But they divorced and she moved to Portland, Oregon area, just outside of Portland, in the early 90s, which is quite a change from Texas. She started taking classes at a local culinary institute. And most reports say that Dan Brophy was her instructor there, but some reports say they were actually at different schools, but met and bonded over their love of cooking. But either way, he divorced his wife at the time, and he and Nancy got together. They said that they were married, but reports say they didn't actually file the paperwork until June of 2016, which pay attention to the timeline on this one because that stands out big to me. They started a catering business where he cooked and she did all the other stuff. And it was reported that they had pretty good numbers at first as far as profits go, but it seems like it wasn't doing so well as of late. Nancy's real love, as we mentioned, was writing. She would write a series of romance novels called Wrong Never Felt So Right and would release 5 books in the series between 2011 and 2017. All were about Navy SEALs and, all that romantical stuff. But they didn't do very well, and from what people who have read them said, she was not as good of a writer as she believed herself to be. But on her website, it shows that her first published work was a pamphlet for the University of Houston entitled Between Your Navel and Your Knees. So you can surmise what that was about. She says, above all, she likes happy endings in her stories, pun intended. She says, my personal life is never as clearly defined. Beginnings are hard to locate. A new job, school term, a family event like a death or a wedding might signal the start of something new, but it's never heralded with any fanfare other than another link in the chain.
Wow, she sounds like she's really happy with her life.
I know, right? And it's just another day. Somebody got married. Great.
Yeah.
So what's happening Tuesday? Like she's...
Yeah, right.
I swear. And on this website, she does offer her services for a fee to give feedback on your writing, to help with plots and all kinds of things while you're writing your books. Family and friends say that Dan and Nancy were inseparable. There were no indications of any issues or real problems that they had, but they were having issues financially. Nancy was selling life insurance, and Dan was reportedly working 3 jobs in 2018. He started as an instructor at the Oregon Culinary Institute in Portland from from the time it had opened, but had started doing weekend classes for extra money. During the week, when he would get to the school, there would already be other people there, but on Saturdays, he was always the first to arrive. On June 2nd, 2018, 63-year-old Dan got to the school and turned off the alarm system at 7:21 a.m., according to case documents. He went to the back kitchen and started filling a bucket with ice and a bucket with water to start coffee and drinks for the class that would be coming in any minute. Another instructor and some students came in at about 7:30. So that's 9 minutes after the alarm was deactivated. They're going about their setup, talking and doing whatever they're doing in the morning. And it was around 8 a.m. when a student went to the back kitchen and found Dan laying on the floor in a pool of blood. One student started CPR while another called 911, but he had already passed away. He was at the sink filling the buckets when he was shot in the back with a Glock 9mm. The bullet went through his spine and pierced his heart. While it is likely that this paralyzed him, it wouldn't have immediately killed him. But while he was laying on the floor, he was then shot again in the chest, with this bullet also hitting his heart and killing him.
He still had his phone, wallet, and keys on him. Nothing was taken from the school, and there were no signs of a struggle. So this was not a robbery.
No. Nope.
This was
straight up murder.
Straight up murder. I mean, personal.
This is personal. Yeah. Somebody had to know his routine, know that he would be there alone because it's such a short window of time.
I mean, you're talking, crazy. 9 minutes?
9 minutes.
And actually, it was probably less time than that because, it was 9 minutes when the other people got there.
Exactly.
So it had to been within 5 minutes before that because
somebody had to go in and be able to come back out.
And shoot a gun.
With nobody hearing it.
Nobody hearing it. So, there you go.
Look at you, detective.
There's your time frame.
It's tiny.
Yeah, small.
So now the police obviously see that this is a murder, and they have to find a motive. And they drive Nancy in from their home in Beaverton. I heard some of the audio from the death notification, and authorities ask Nancy if Dan is her husband, and she confirmed. He says, "So I just wanted to let you know that we believe it's Dan that's been killed, okay?" And Nancy says, "Yeah, I kind of got that when everybody gave me the sad sack look." And I can see that because I'm sure with all the students and people standing around by the time she got there, that they would be looking at her like, oh, there's the wife. You know what I mean? So I can understand what she's talking about. That poor woman. Things like that. So she probably registered those looks, but still, it seemed like a weird statement to make immediately after they tell you your husband has died in a violent, unexpected way. They start asking her questions, like where she was that day. And she says that she was at home all morning, and Dan left for work around 7:05 a.m. They asked her if they own a gun. She tells them that she and Dan had bought a gun on February 17th at a gun show because of a recent school shooting in the news. She said that they bought it for protection, but was never really interested in it, so they never bought ammo and never shot it. Another reason she gave for them getting the gun was because he loved mushrooms. He would go out mushroom hunting, and they thought that the gun would be good for protection when he was out in the wild. And if you listen to anything else on this case, you're going to hear people cracking jokes about how dangerous wild mushrooms can be to the point where you need a gun to protect yourself. But I don't think it was for the mushrooms. I believe it was for the animals that are around the mushrooms, like wild hogs and things like that. They also like that kind of thing. She took them to the house and turned over the Glock 17. They noticed that the slide is on it, but not locked into place. So this likely wouldn't have been able to be used as the murder weapon. They tested the gun, and ballistics confirmed that he had not been shot with this gun. So the investigation really begins.
3 days after the murder, Nancy called the lead detective with an unusual request.
Yep. She wanted a letter on their official letterhead saying that she was not a suspect in the case. She said it was a request from the insurance company. The detective, in a recorded phone call, asked Nancy why they would need that. And she said, because they don't want to pay if it turns out I secretly went down to the school and shot my husband. No shit. The detective tells her that he had never heard of an insurance company requesting something like that, and he refused to give her one. She ranted about how it was ridiculous to ask for a measly $40,000 policy anyways. The investigation would soon learn that there was a $40,000 life insurance policy on Dan, but that wasn't the only one. There were several policies that Nancy had taken out on Dan. Remember, she sells life insurance, so she sold herself multiple policies, which totaled more like $800,000. So they're digging into Nancy. They see that the couple had started having financial issues around 2016. Remember when they finally filed that marriage certificate? And they were living paycheck to paycheck. In 2017, they fell over $6,000 behind in mortgage payments. But that same year, they paid over $16,000 in life insurance premiums. Priorities, right? There was a $300,000 equity in the house. So if she sold it, that would be money in her pocket. Plus, she made a workman's comp claim with the SAIF company. Because Dan was killed at work, they determined that she would be the beneficiary of the accidental death benefit. Add all that up, and we are at about $1.5 million coming to Nancy. They found out that she actually wrote an article in November of 2011 called How to Murder Your Husband. And this is what caught your attention in this case.
Yeah, when I heard about her writing that and then actually doing it, I knew we needed to look into the story.
Yeah.
I was like, because what kind of idiot would post an article that says how to murder your husband?
Yep. And then do it.
And well, yeah.
Because she obviously did it.
So did she post the article before?
Yes. So this article was posted in 2011.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And he was shot in 2018.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay. How to murder your husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, lady. Get your shit together.
So if you want to know what not to do,
just listen to this story. Don't read hers.
Yeah.
Because this gave me...
read the article.
Don't read that article. She obviously didn't get away with it. And this gave me some OJ vibes too when you were telling me about it at first. Because he wrote that book, If I Did It, after he was found not guilty. But she wrote hers before, so this is way different. And her little article or blog post, whatever it was, it breaks down motives, methods, all kinds of details and reasoning on how effective they would each be. It's just too much. They also interviewed their family and friends and found out that Nancy was talking about selling their house and traveling the world. But she only talked like that when she was alone with them, never in front of Dan. She told one friend about what she wanted to do and said that Dan would not be easy to convince. So they pretty much knew that Dan was not aware of her big dreams. Authorities found out that she had spent over $1,500 buying gun stuff for that gun that she supposedly didn't care for. On December 19th of 2017, she did a search for ghost guns, and she went to a website where she bought a Glock 19 9mm ghost gun kit. Now, they were able to recover this kit from a rented storage unit that the couple had, and the lower unit of the gun had not been assembled. They were able to determine that the intact slide and barrel assembly would not have fit on her Glock 17. So they were able to eliminate that as any possible involvement in the crime. She did a Google search on February 19th of 2018 for a Glock 17 slide and barrel for sale, and this took her to eBay. She did bid and win the auction, and authorities said this slide and barrel would have fit on her Glock 17 Gen 4, and this slide and barrel was never found. She said she didn't know where it was. Her eBay account was deleted just days before the murder.
She told the police that she had never shot the gun, but they saw that she had searched the internet for how to load a Glock and watched videos on how to remove the slide and barrel.
Yep. And the officer who reviewed the digital evidence said it's not totally out of the norm to look up a Glock 17 purchase. But when you break it down to a barrel and slide, well, that's a little more interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, we watched it, one of our favorite TV shows, and the episode where the guy, he shot the guy and then the cop came down. He's like, here, he said, what kind of gun you carrying?
Yes.
And he gave him his
slide, yeah.
His slide.
Yep.
And then later on, he got arrested.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got him, oh, you're telling me that you gave him? Yeah.
Exactly.
That's funny.
Exactly.
Anyway.
She said that the gun was heavy and ugly, and she never bought ammunition or shot it, remember? But they know that she was at a shooting range a few months before the shooting. Why go to a shooting range if you have nothing to shoot? Apparently, Nancy forgot that surveillance cameras exist too. Remember, she said she was home all day until they came to get her to bring her to the school and tell her about Dan. But her van is seen on surveillance from a local business downtown driving by at 6:39 a.m. The van was on surveillance in front of the school at 7:08 a.m. and then drives away at 7:28 a.m. That was cutting it close. Because remember, the students and the other instructor showed up at 7:30. So cops asked Nancy about that. She claims retrograde amnesia due to the traumatic events of the day. Now she remembers that she was driving around and writing book ideas down. Then she went to Starbucks and got coffee. Actually, she blames everything on researching for books. She had an idea of writing a book about a wife who kills her husband. So she had been researching all that gun stuff because of the book.
And that was her big plan to get away with murder.
Yep. It was all for a book. She didn't have nothing to do with it.
Whatever. She's probably in prison right now, freaking writing a book right now.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm telling you.
I need to look into that. I'm going to now look that up.
Yeah, I guarantee you. And Our Tale will probably be the only bestseller she's got because she was convicted.
After this happened, that was the most her books had been read because people wanted to see what she wrote about. And everybody says, wow, there's a reason she was self-published and not published through somebody because nobody would.
Oh, so she was that bad.
Yeah, nobody would publish her books for her.
No.
They didn't want their name on it. So as you probably guessed, Nancy was arrested on September 5th, 2018. They believe that she put the eBay slide and barrel on the gun, killed Dan, disposed of the barrel and slide on the way home, and then tried to put the original set back on, but didn't get the slide locked back into place. A different barrel would mean that the bullet striations and things like that wouldn't match, and they wouldn't be able to link her gun as the murder weapon. But that backfired on her because they have all this other evidence. So even though you don't have a murder weapon per se, you do have all of this showing why you don't have a murder weapon. And so she did plead not guilty. And she said in court, because she did testify, that she didn't kill Dan and she didn't know how to defend herself against truth. She tried her amnesia story and her story about driving around writing that morning, but they saw right through all of that. She was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life with parole consideration after 25 years. But she is in her 70s now, so she likely won't see the outside of the prison. Ironically, in her article about how to murder your husband, she did say, "I don't like jumpsuits and orange is not my color." And now that's what she gets to wear for the rest of her life. It also said, "I find it is easier to wish people dead than to actually kill them. But the thing I know about murder is that every one of us has it in him or herself when pushed far enough." But what pushed her that far?
Yeah, see, that's what I don't get is like, I mean, what was it? Because they were struggling?
They were struggling financially, and she wanted to go, like, run the world. She wanted to go and travel, and he did not. He was
trying to make money. Hell, he's working 3 jobs.
Right, but he was also happy where he was. He didn't want to go anywhere else. He was happy doing what he was doing and being where he was.
It's like go on vacation.
I wonder if he just wouldn't go on vacation.
Maybe.
That just pissed her off.
I don't know.
But enough to kill him, that's just too much.
That is crazy.
That's too much,
Well,
Nancy.
That was this story. Like I said, I actually heard this one on the radio and it caught my attention. And so I had to call Amy and be like, hey, look into this one.
Research it.
But anyway, glad you guys listened in. Catch us on the next one.
Bye.